Go-Go Power Rangers Volume 1 contains issues 1 to 4 of the prequel series that runs alongside the main Mighty Morphin comics, and I've been looking forward to reading Go-Go Volume 1 for so long. I had actually planned to read it months ago, but I'm not rich, so I had to balance this and catching up with the new Star Wars canon, and I'm very nearly there, by the way, so Go-Go took a bit of a backseat for me, but I absolutely knew I had to read Volumes 1 and 2 before Shattered Grid is released, so I finally got Volume 1, and the day I'm writing this review, Volume 2 actually arrived, and I got that for free. Why? Well, if you've seen my review of Year 2, you'll have a slight clue, and it's because Amazon are a fucking shit company. I'd pre-ordered The Psychopath with release date delivery. Did it turn up? No, just like when I ordered Year 2 from Amazon, and I believe Smurd P ordered The Psychopath, and his didn't turn up from Amazon as well. Other places have it in stock, but it's just fucking Amazon. Absolute dickheads. So, you know, you've got to push Amazon, and to make up for it, they gave me £10 credit, which was nice, so I ordered Star Wars The Force Collector, a new book that's been released in the UK, but doesn't get released in America until mid-November. So I jumped on that opportunity because I'm a reviewer, and the earlier you can get your reviews out, the better. But the book arrived water damaged, readable, but not new like it was supposed to be. So I contacted them on chat again, and they gave me another £20. And with that, I got Poe Dameron Volume 5, the final one in the Shitty Poe series, and Go-Go Volume 2. So I'll be starting that today, and I'll be all set for Shattered Grid. So, Go-Go is the flip side of the Mighty Morphin comics, and where Mighty Morphin focuses on grand storylines set after the events of Green with Evil, Go-Go is set before and has a much lighter tone, and while it still has a good story, it's less grand, with the focus shifting to be about the actual Rangers and their day-to-day lives, the dynamic they have as a new team, and the tone of the book is much lighter and humorous. The book starts right after their first battle, and the Rangers are just trying to come to terms with it all, the new abilities, the new danger, the responsibility of it all, and it was pretty cool to see them questioning whether they can and should be Rangers because of both their own abilities and other commitments in their lives, like school. There's also a really funny dynamic with Kimberly where she's the new girl in school and she's going out with Matt, who I'm really curious to read about because I know he got a mention in Year 2 and he met a pretty bad fate from what I read there, and at the end of this book he's been kidnapped by Rita. So I'm curious to see what will happen with that in Volume 2. But Kimberly herself is really funny because when she first moved to Angel Grove, her and her parents went out to dinner and they were arguing because they're divorced, and she flipped out and had to go at the waiter over a salad, and the waiter turned out to be Zach, and he was fired for talking to customers in a bad way, and they didn't know each other at that point because this is before they got their powers. So when they all meet up again, Trini calls her Salad Girl, and this is an excellent example of what I mean about the dynamic. It's less story heavy and focuses more on the interactions within the team, and I like how they kind of gel together. There's also a blooming romance between Jason and Trini, which I thought was done pretty well, and I think that's a nice little homage to Twee Trang, because I've heard Austin St. John talk about Twee and how when they were in the studio, like in the command center set, they used to hug a lot quite intimately to keep warm, and Twee used to, let's just say, rev his engine a bit. So I think it's a nice little nod to Twee and Austin St. John. And it was interesting to see Zach doubting Jason's leadership, because that's something we see him ponder in Year 2 when it's revealed that Rita offered him the power of the Green Ranger, so I think that ties in very nicely. Speaking of Jason, I wasn't keen on the explanation of why he took his karate so seriously. Apparently he was a bit of a bully as a kid, and the cure for that is karate, apparently. It didn't make much sense to me and seemed like they were trying to justify something that didn't need to be justified with a pretty crappy backstory. Jason is just a focused individual who likes karate. That's it. Don't ram things in if they don't fit. This is the only thing I didn't like about the book, and I mean literally the only thing. Everything else was spot on, and even this didn't take up much space, so it wasn't a big deal, and it does show why Jason has always looked after Billy so much beyond just being a good guy, so it's definitely not the worst thing in the world, it just wasn't great. There's a mission to the moon where Zordon says they have to rescue the astronauts who released Rita from her dumpster, and I thought that was a cool thing to include because we never actually found out what happened to those guys in the show, so it gave a bit of resolution while also providing a good story for the Rangers. To be honest, I'd never thought about what happened to them. They were in like 30 seconds of footage, and they were at the beginning of the titles of each episode, and then that's it. They went out of my mind forever, so while I hadn't really wanted to know their fate, I thought it was a smart inclusion. The Rangers' rescue mission leads to a showdown with Rita herself in her palace, and it's such a good showdown and does a really good job of showing what a threat she can be when she's not just a bad guy sending out monsters every week. And it turns out she laid a trap for the Rangers to come to her, and she also manages to find out their secret identities, so I thought that was really well written. After the moon mission, Rita sends out a monster that sucks up electricity and the city is damaged, Matt is hurt, and Jason is stuck with some students, so he can't go and help the other Rangers without revealing who he is to the other students, which violates the Rangers code. So Zack has the idea to get Billy's Triceratops Zord to attack the power plant the monster is drawing energy from, which causes blackouts all across the city, which then gives Jason a chance to leave, morph, and arrive with the Tyrannosaurus Zord, meaning they can complete the Megazord and destroy the monster, leaving the book on a high note. Mostly. I say mostly because I mentioned Matt's fate earlier, and it seems Rita got Finster to create a shape-shifting monster, and initially it takes the form of a young woman, and when Kimberly has to run off to become the Pink Ranger, she asks the woman to help Matt, trusting she'll get him to a hospital, completely unaware of her true nature. But the final page of the book reveals that the Matt lying in the hospital bed is none other than the shape-shifting monster, and the real Matt has been taken to Rita's palace, where he's imprisoned in a wall of putties, which actually reminded me of Aliens, and that Rita can see everything through the eyes of the fake Matt, who is of course best friends with the Rangers. I thought it was an excellent ending because while on the surface it seems like the Rangers won the day and everything's fine, that cliffhanger shows that not everything is as it seems and sets up Volume 2 very nicely, with the Rangers unaware that they're literally giving Rita all the information she could possibly want about them. So I think Ryan Parrott did an excellent job telling a story that was lighter in tone and faster paced than the Mighty Morphin comics, while also being thoroughly enjoyable, fast paced and true to the original series. Dan Mora was on pencil duty and Raul Angulo was on colours, and I think they did a great job. Their art is so similar to Prosecha's in the main Mighty Morphin comic, and they do a fantastic job of giving the art a good sense of action and momentum. Some of it's just funny, like when Kimberly feels sick on her first date with Matt, and some of it's just incredibly epic, like when the Rangers are sitting on the Megazord at the beginning, or the reveal that Matt's been captured on the last page. I really enjoyed the art in this book, whether it was just a regular frame or something much more epic. It was all fantastic. After the story, there's a cover gallery, but unlike in the Year 1 and Year 2 deluxe editions, this book doesn't have every alternate cover for the issues that are contained in this book, and I think that's a shame, and that's one of the reasons we should be getting a deluxe edition for Go-Go. The Shattered Grid hardcover will contain Go-Go issues 9 to 12, so they could very easily do a deluxe edition for issues 1 to 8, and since it's set before Year 1, literally after they get their powers actually, they could call it Year 0. It would only be 4 issues shorter than Years 1 and 2, but with all the extra stuff like the cover galleries, design sketches, notes from cast, that sort of thing, there would barely be any noticeable difference between them, and that way everything is collected in oversized hardcover format, including all the alternate covers. I've spoken to Boom a couple of times, and sadly they have no interest in releasing a hardcover for the first 8 issues of Go-Go, and I think that's a shame, especially since year after year we've had crossovers in the floppies like Shattered Grid, Beyond the Grid, Necessary Evil, all of which contain issues of Go-Go, so when those hardcovers come out, Go-Go will clearly be included. So I just can't see why they won't release issues 1 to 8 in a deluxe edition, and I really wish they would. So if you want to see a hardcover, send them an email and let them know please. Show them there's a demand for it and we might just get one day. Anyway, after the covers, there's a page that says continued in volume 2, and that's it for the book. One final thing I want to say is the paper stock on the book is fantastic. It's so thick, and after getting so many books from Marvel lately that have these incredibly thin pages, both trades and omnis alike, I could tear a page out and wipe my ass with it. It's so nice to have a new book with pages this thick. I mean, I can literally just hold one page at the bottom while the book's open and the page will stand. Modern Marvel books do not do that, and they're a massively successful, well-known company, and I see no reason why their paper stock should be so thin when Boom, an indie developer who is still relatively new, can provide higher quality books. Even the covers are thicker. It just shows you that Marvel will cut corners to make money regardless of how it affects the people that pay, whereas Boom care about providing a good product, so well done Boom. So overall, in case you couldn't tell, I loved Go-Go Volume 1. Where it was only 4 issues, it didn't have that majestic storyline we've seen in Mighty Morphin, but it traded that for a look at the individual Rangers up close and personal, and while it's not the biggest story on its own, I can see how the story set up Volume 2, so I think the story will grow in terms of size, becoming something closer to the main comics, because after Volume 2, it's the Shattered Grid crossover. I think the combination of the storytelling and the art works fantastically to deliver a fun, fast-paced, intriguing, and overall excellent story featuring the very earliest days of the Rangers. And I'm so looking forward to reading Volume 2.